So we have all dealt with men who are unhealed, lashing out on us, just have a lot of toxic tendencies, whether from your home, whether from the workplace, school, wherever. We've all dealt with it. And so I really want to take the time to really analyze what's going on with this. Why is all of this going on? So here are 5 ways that men have been and are continue to be being attacked by dark forces, and that are also preventing them from evolving spiritually. So let's get into it. Now, before I really dive in, I do want to say that I'm not saying this to judge anybody. I'm not saying any of this to condemn anybody, but I want to put into awareness. I want us to really create a dialogue and understand what's going on, like what we see that is happening, and really break it down. Once we really fully understand what's going on, we'll be able to dissect it and basically move forward from it and learn how to solve it in the future. So I think it's really important to talk about. So a lot of things we see that men are dealing with has to do with things going on internally with them, right? So the first thing that have shaped this internal world is their family. You know, if the family has gone through any trauma, have dealt with any pains, unhealed wounds, is definitely going to reflect within the family structure. In some family structures, men are not there, they're not able to provide for the families, or even their mom is a single mom taking care of the household. Now, I'm not saying that it's not possible for a man to be grown in these type of environments or raised in these type of environments and become a contribution to society. What I'm saying is this adds to the stress of the households. This adds to the stress of whether it's a single mom or whether it's a parent, 2-parent household and their stress. It just really adds on to the plate of the different dynamics that are happening in the household. If the parents are unhealed, if they're dealing with substance abuse, and that's another issue, you know. And we see how certain communities are targeted. We see it, okay? We have liquor stores in certain communities, corner to corner. We have issues with education. There's not enough funding for education for one community, but there is enough for another. We have a lot of these inequalities that are scattered throughout our society, and it absolutely affects the home. And the home is where anyone growing up in a home, this is where your fundamental ideology, your fundamental neurological pathways, basically the habits that your mind are trained to respond in, they're built within the home very early on. So if the home dynamic is chaotic, unhealed, and traumatic field, then that's going to reflect on the individual, including the young men, the little boys that are being raised in these type of households. The second aspect is societal, okay? So the societal norms that are being placed within us has a huge impact on how men interact and deal with their emotions and what's going on internally. Now, we can look at movies, we can look at commercials, we can look at cartoons, we can look at all these different things that we as human beings, and especially as young men, are watching, even down to the magazine covers. It was when I was coming up, it was a big thing like, oh, why all the women on the magazines are so small and skinny, and we went through that, right? But like, I don't recall, maybe I wasn't part of the discussion because I'm not a man, but did they even talk about the men on these magazine covers? Did they even talk about the standards that men have for them being strong and all of that? Did they really even talk about that at all? It just doesn't affect women, it affects men too. So that's something that they have literally, hey, correct me if I'm wrong, they were out the conversation of how these magazines cover were harming young girls, okay? They were left out. That shows a whole nother aspect. Like, why were they left out? Why were men left out of that conversation? You know, it's problematic. Some of these movies, some of these shows, they really kind of put men's ego on a pedestal. Now, the thing about men is they're rooted more in the material realm. They're providers, they're protectors, right? And these ideas are actually seated within the physical realm. So women, we're more spiritual inclined. We're more right-brained and more emotional, like that, things like that, right? And so when our society pushes on men extra, okay, them being more materialistic, them being more based in our physical realm, that amplifies that part of them. So that eliminates and kind of overshadows the feminine side that they have within them. And so now this is amplifying the imbalance of male and female energy within one man. This is actually cultivating and enhancing an imbalance within these energies. It is natural for a man to have female attributes because he's part woman. He sat in the womb of a woman for 9 months, okay? He is part woman. So it is natural for a man to have feminine attributes. However, in our society, it is deemed you're not a man. You're not a man. It's also tracing into homophobia as well due to the societal norms. But that's a whole nother discussion for another video. And this societal impact even goes down into the music. We even have a 3-letter agency, okay, admitting that they infiltrated rap music. You know, back in the day when rap just started, it was positive, it was uplifting, it was talking about what we can do and being proud of who we are and loving yourself. And it took a big ass turn, okay? It took a turn. And the 3-letter agency admitted that they infiltrated it. And guess what? You think they stopped? Did the music get any better? Are the record labels endorsing and promoting music that is positive? The major ones. I'll let you answer that. So society has a big role in how men are dealing with their internal emotions and running from healing. The third way that men are being attacked and being prevented from evolving spiritually is ancestral traumas. These traumas have been passed on literally from our grandparents, great-grandparents, and great-great-great-great-great-grandparents onto us. And we have our study that the sciences have been looking into called epigenetics. Now, epigenetics fascinates me so much because I feel like it is a physical manifestation of a spiritual phenomenon in terms of our spiritual attributes that get carried on. We actually have epigenetics, which is a way to literally track these events that happened to our ancestors in our DNA and really analyze how it affected us. So that being said, if your great-grandfather was living in a society where women were deemed as only house workers, or you never saw him cry, or, you know, these type of things, right? Communication issues, unhealed traumas, yet again from another generation, that's going to carry on to your DNA. That's going to further cement these ideologies that, okay, well, I'm a man, I'm not supposed to cry, or I'm a man, I'm supposed to be tough, or, you know, I'm a man, I'm supposed to go out and work, and my wife's supposed to sit in a house and take care of the kids. Like, these ideologies are carried on and literally within our DNA. So it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder to uproot these ideologies. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but yes, it will be harder. On top of that, we have the religious doctrine. The religious doctrine that literally states that women are inferior. Basically, I won't say it literally states, but in so many words, women are more inferior to men. We have these holy texts that people are still following today and still use to justify the abuse, the mistreatment, the belittling of women. Because it's Eve's fault. Eve did it, you know? And granted, I'm not 100% keenly studied on other religion and other ideologies. However, if you look across the globe, women are the most trafficked. we're the most abused, we're the most this and most that. It goes on and on and on. So how many generations are we going to really learn from this? Like how many? Like how many lifetimes? How many cycles do we as a globe have to recognize that women should be treated with respect? I don't know. It's just a question, because maybe you know the answer. So let's take it a few what decades back, right? Like 1920s, 1930s, that time frame, right? The advertisements against women, I would say against women, because they were sexist. They were absolutely sexist. Men having their feet on women, women being treated like objects, literally being objectified openly in an advertisement. These ideologies didn't just vanish in thin air. They actually got absorbed within the DNA of that person, especially if they accepted these ideologies. And on top of that, it went into the collective consciousness of men. Now, that goes into the next point I want to make. And the fourth reason is collective consciousness. So, every aspect of society has a bubble of collective consciousness. Now, this is an ideology more on the spiritual side, where if a certain group of people experience something together collectively, then they all share in that experience. Now, whether they have incarnated during different times, they still withhold a certain amount of memory, a certain amount of knowledge of these instances that have gone on, whether is going on now or in the past, okay? And so, for instance, they even say this with animals in some cases, like certain animals, they have a collective consciousness. This is why most of them, react a certain way or respond a certain way in nature. But when you actually take a pet, like for instance home, and you start to work with the pet and it starts to adapt to your own personality, your own spirit, then this is when you see the personality of the animal kind of start popping, because they're kind of being pulled away from that collective consciousness. So it's the same concept with men. It's the same concept with women, with just our whole world, right? But there's different micro and there's macro components of collective consciousness. So that being said, men have their own collective consciousness. So if the collective consciousness of men is unhealed, the bulk of this collective consciousness is unhealed, which means it's filled with different experiences that cause men pain, like in the past. And I mean, it can go far as back as Atlantis. Like the collective consciousness can have memories of of endless time frames on this planet, and they have not been healed, but they have been suppressed. It is also going to affect a man in their healing journey. They're going to have to really dig deep. First they have to get through layers of wounds. They're not going to be able to get to the ancestral trauma and the collective trauma if they're not able to deal with this current life trauma. There has to be layers, like peel back of an onion, for anyone, male, female, to heal. And is no exception with men. But being that they have so many different angles and so many different things that are being held up against them, it's very hard for men to even look in a mirror and acknowledge that they are unhealed, at the very least. And the first step in doing that to healing is admitting that you have a problem. And unfortunately, our society and everything else around it has enabled men to continue and carry on unhealed and use it as a sign of strength instead. When you're using doctor manipulation, when you're being toxic, men are often being praised for that when it should be the opposite. And the fifth point that literally holds everything together is the suppression of emotions. This is the concept that men are not meant to show emotion. They're not meant to cry. They're not meant to allow their woman to lead in any kind of way. They're not meant to do that. But really, the suppression of their emotions is really what's holding them back from being able to evolve spiritually. Women, we had to go through all of this. A lot of us, We had to go through dealing with our traumas from being in toxic relationship, dealing with our parents and family and co-workers who have been toxic. We have learned to heal from that, grow from that, learn about it, and move on. However, if men are not able to admit to themselves that they have a problem, they are literally in the act of suppressing and hiding their emotions from themselves, which only harms them and everyone else around them like a giant black hole. And so, just to let you guys know, when we have a general aversion to women, right? If men see, oh, it's Eve's fault, it's this fault, the feminine aspect outside of them is their fault, they're going to shun that part of them internally. They're going to shun that feminine aspect of themselves. They're going to deny it. They're literally going to deny it like it's some type of fucking, like, oh, this is so horrible. My feminine side, oh, she's so evil type shit. So let's just understand that, okay? Let's understand that. In some spiritual circles, it's the same. It is considered weak to be unhealed. It is considered not good to be unhealed. And this is why I gave that disclaimer earlier on in the video, is because I want people to understand this is not to judge anybody. This is not to say, oh, you're weaker or you're stronger or whatever if you're healed or unhealed. We all have our own different paths. We all have our own different roads to healing and growing. Just because you as an individual have healed one thing within yourself and another person has not, does not make you better than them. Guess why? Because you were there at their point at some point in time. You were where they were at some point in time. And just how you had to go through a certain progression to get where you are, they have to go through a certain progression to where they are. So it's best when you give people grace and you give people compassion and understanding and get like, hey, I understand that they going through some stuff. I understand that they haven't healed certain things, but you know what? I understand where they were, because guess what? I was there too. So I think if we meet people with compassion, this world will be different. But you have to be able to heal yourself off the break to even do that. So we really have to take a step back and go within and really analyze what we're doing internally and also what we're doing externally, because that actually affects the world around us. And it's to the point where there is now a habit for men to suppress pain. And I speak on another video about neurological pathways. Check out that video. It explains it a little bit more so you understand where I'm coming from. But men actually have a habit of acting this way, of actually suppressing their pains, of actually not confronting them, not feeling them, not even acknowledge that they're there. So how can you move forward? How can you move forward and heal if you can't even acknowledge there's pain in the first place? Now, what ends up happening is you end up getting triggered. Anyone who suppresses their pain, anyone who does not fully grieve something, they end up getting triggered. And what happens is all of that emotion from all of those pains, from whether it be childhood trauma, ancestral trauma, collective consciousness trauma, all of these pains will be directed towards that person that triggered them within an instant sometimes. And that's a lot of wrath to put on somebody for one moment at a time. So we have to really understand the things that are being done to the men in our world, right? And we as women, we have to understand how we need to move to protect ourselves and those around us, and men too. Not every man is unhealed, right? So as a man, if you see a man unhealed, help him out. If you see a man saying things, ideologies that do not align with the divine creator, call him out. And these are things that we can do, right? But we also have to be mindful and protect ourselves. I will say that emphatically. We are in a time where people are being separated by their frequency. If someone's in your life and they're not on your frequency and you have tried, that's what it is. They don't want to be on your frequency. They don't want to heal. And we have to respect that, okay? Because not everybody is ready to heal, okay? But these are some things we can do. You know, if you are a woman and you're in a relationship with a man and you notice that he is unhealed, that he got some stuff going on with him, okay, try to make it a thing between y'all two. To if he doesn't want to openly heal, be like, hey babe, come on, like, let's go to the park, let's go sit on the bench, let's have a picnic, let's be out in nature. Being out in nature is so healing, okay? Oh baby, I know I just made you a cup of tea. This tea is so soothing. Give him some lavender tea, okay? We gonna have to do something, okay? If you're in a relationship and he's willing, right? Because not every man is willing to try some tea. Not every man want to go outside, but hey, if y'all want to go ride bikes outside, if y'all want to go swimming, encourage him to be active. Being active promotes healing. It promotes body circulation, which helps release energy blocks, okay? So these are some things you can do if you're in a relationship. If you are not in a relationship and you are a woman, okay, first thing you need to do, you need to heal deeply. You need to heal your family traumas. You need to heal your ancestral traumas. And you need to heal collective consciousness trauma, past life, potentially past life trauma. Now, I'm not saying you gotta heal all this, right? But at least heal the trauma in this life. Because what ends up happening is if we are not healed and we're getting into a relationship, and I speak this from experience, we will actually accept more crap, more toxicity from a man or from a woman, even if you're into women, right? If you're a woman, you're into women. We will accept toxicity. What this does is this amplifies the strength of those low vibrational entities that are actually causing they're the root cause of some of these behaviors we're running into, some of these toxic behaviors we're running into. So the more we speak out on it, the more we put a spotlight on it, the more we don't allow that in our lives, this further enables, this actually stops the enabling of this behavior that we're running into over and over again, because we're showing these entities, hey, we're okay with y'all doing this to us. Yeah, we okay with y'all doing this to planet Earth. We okay with it. That's what we're showing them. But that's why it's important to heal, because once you heal, you're going to shed all of these energies off of you, low vibrational energies off of you, and you're going to be able to see it even clearer in other people. And when there's other people come around you and you see them, you're going to be like, oh, I ain't messing with them. I see them energies on them. Now, some of us are clairvoyant. We got the clairs. I call it the clairs. Clairaudience, clairvoyance, clair this, clair that. Some of us got the clairs, and we can tell already. Other instances, you can hear what somebody's saying out their mouth, and you can analyze the deeper spirit behind them and the deeper meaning behind it. So we got to really, really take care of ourselves. I mean, really, not just physically, but spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, okay? We are in New Earth. Things are shifting around, moving around, shifting around. It's a lot going on. I ain't even gonna front. But some of us have healed early on in the stage, and we are here to guide and create space for those who are still, getting their bearings. And look, even us who have already kind of healed, we also getting our bearings with all these solar flares and full moons and this and that. It's layers. So we just gotta support each other. We gotta be supportive of each other. We gotta be real with each other. We gotta keep it 100 with each other, okay? And that's what I'm trying to do. So I really want to make this video to shed light on these things. I'm a holistic practitioner, a Reiki master, crystal healer. I do quantum energy healing, and I'm a sound therapist. So I do one-on-ones as well. I do offer free curated playlists, sound therapy playlists, based on your needs. Like I have a playlist for insomnia, chakra realignment. I have a playlist for emotional healing, back pains, okay? So just let me know, hit me up. I will send you a free list and I will inform you and let you know how it works, because I don't want people thinking I did some crazy stuff to them after they listen to these sound frequencies. But yeah, we gotta do this together, y'all. We here supporting one another. If they're not on your vibration frequency, protect yourself. Do what you gotta do. All right, much love. Hope you have a wonderful, radiant, beautiful day.